So it is time for another book review for the month of April. April, I didn't read as much as I normally do. I was just so involved in sewing and making my quilt and doing other fun projects that I didn't read as much, which is totally fine. I still read quite a few books. Some were really good and some were kind of disappointing. The first book I read for the month of April was Remarkably Bright Creatures, and I loved this book. It was part of my book club that I'm doing with my friend, and it had a really slow story that didn't really have too much build up, but it was really lovely. It was about three different characters. This older woman who cleans at a local aquarium. There was a young man in his 30s that just moved into the area and was looking for his father, and then there was a giant Pacific octopus that lives in the aquarium, and all three of their stories kind of came together in the end in a really nice way, and I just really enjoyed it. It takes place in the Pacific Northwest in Washington, and it was just a really lovely story. I think Netflix just released a movie for it this month, so I might have to sign up for Netflix just so I can watch it. But I really enjoyed it. I did rent it from the library, but I think I might have to purchase my own copy because I just really enjoyed it. The next book that I read was The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. This is part of India Holton's Dangerous Damsels series. I read the third book in the series first because I didn't realize that there were more books to this, but I did read this one and I enjoyed it. It wasn't as good as the third one, and it was still really confusing. I thought if I started from the beginning, the third book would make a little more sense, but I feel like there's just a lot going on in this series that just doesn't make much sense, as far as like there's floating houses and just all these quirky characters, and it's just a fun story. But yeah, this one was cute. I am gonna read the second one in the series and then probably reread the third to see if I like it even better after starting from the beginning, but I definitely enjoyed this one. And then while I was having my little bookish adventure in Eugene, I was reading this one, and while I was there, I really didn't know what book I wanted to purchase for this month from that bookstore, and so the gal that worked there asked what I was looking for, and I said I really don't know, but I said I was reading this one, and she said if I like this one then I should buy this one. She said it had like similar themes of like cozy fantasy, found family, and she also said it was similar to Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. So I went with her recommendation and bought this one, but I actually really don't think I enjoyed this one. To me, it was not like those other two books that she told me it was. This one had, it was cozy and it was like the found family trope, but it had a lot of dark themes in it, like drug abuse and being abandoned by a parent who has substance abuse issues. And I also really didn't like the main character very well. I don't know. I feel like she wasn't a very outstanding citizen, and it just didn't quite do it for me. It was still an okay read, but it just had so many weird things going on, and it takes place in this fictional setting, and a lot of the vocabulary they use I couldn't understand. It had like a old London type feeling, like from like the Victorian age, but they had all these terms that I had never heard before, like householding, which kind of implies like marriage and being like getting married or a partnership, or they are talking about they have a lot of things where I was just like, I don't know exactly what that term is supposed to mean, so I just kind of had to go with it. But yeah, it wasn't my favorite. I would not recommend this one. And then after that, I read Peter Pan. I really like this Wordsworth children's book collection. I think they're really adorable. So I'm trying to read and purchase like 1 or 2 a year to go in our collection. So this one is the first one I bought for like our collection this year. I also have the first 2 Anna Green Gables books, Wind in the Willows, and what's the 4th one I have? And then I also have A Christmas Carol. But so I read this. I've never read this one before, and I actually don't think I'm a fan of this story and Peter Pan. As much as it's like, I feel like there's so many retellings of this story, and I just, after reading this, I don't know why. He's a pretty bratty child and kind of narcissistic and only thinks of himself, and I didn't enjoy the story. But it was fascinating to see, if you are a fan of the movie Hook with Dennis Hoffman and Robin Williams, a lot of that movie pulls directly from this book, which I thought was really interesting, that they like made direct correlation between the original book and the movie. But yeah, I didn't really enjoy this, but I am glad I read it, because I really am trying to read like classic children's stories, and just seeing like what my, like when I read Wizard of Oz, that was so different from the movie version, and so was this one. Like just like, I really liked Wizard of Oz, both tellings of it, the movie and the book version. This one, I don't think I like the original book. I like some of the other tellings better. Oh, I had one did not finish book this month that relates to Peter Pan. It was called Descent into Darkness by T.S. Kinley, and my coworker lent it to me because it's like a 2-book prequel thing to her like Neverland series. Did not like that book. It is like, it's supposed to be Captain Hook's origin story, but how she starts the book, it starts like after he's kicked out of Neverland, and I only got like less than 100 pages in because I did not enjoy it at all. But from there were no flashbacks to when he was on the island or anything, so there was like that would have been the story I would have wanted to hear. But it started when he is like abandoned in our realm, and he starts working for Blackbeard, which that does pull directly from this, because he was part of Blackbeard's crew according to this book. But that the Descent into Darkness was way too explicit in their scenes. Like, it's supposed to be like an adult romance book, but it was like too disgusting for me, so I could not read it. I only got like 7 chapters in and had to stop because it was very cringy and not in a good way. Next, I read the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes for the first time. Really enjoyed this one. It follows President Snow when he's like 18 and just graduating from, they call it academy, but it's really like high school, and how he hasn't quite started rising to power yet, and this is kind of like his origin story of like, he's kind of, I mean, obviously knowing what we know of President Snow, we know he's going to turn bad, but to see him as a young man, I'm glad that they kind of painted him as a person kind of in the middle of like, he doesn't agree with some of the capital rules, but at the same time he really like does. And so it was a really fascinating story. I won't talk too much about it because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but maybe once I finish reading Sunrise on the Reaping, I'll do like a full series review over it. But really enjoyed this one. I wasn't sure how I would feel reading about his journey, but it was fascinating to see, like, because this starts in like the 10th year of the Hunger Games, and how like kind of unpolished it is back then, how horrible they treat the tributes and like what their conditions are and just how they organize everything. It's kind of like they haven't put too much thought into the Hunger Games like we see in like when Katniss is in them, like it's like a spectacle when she's in them, and here it's just like no one really cares about them too much. And so it's like that this is like the start of like trying to build it into what it eventually becomes. Okay, and then the last book that I read this month was Eat, Pray, Love. I think I bought this when I was in Idaho in September and just kind of forgot that I had this one, so I'm trying to read books off my shelf instead of buying so many this year. So I decided to read this one. It was just okay. I didn't really connect with it's supposed to be a memoir of the author when she spends a year traveling to Italy, India, and Indonesia, and how she spends her time in each of those places. And it was a lot more spiritual than I thought it would be. Like, she's very involved with yoga, and she has like a guru that she follows and is trying to like connect with God. And those are not things that I do or like connect with. So it was kind of hard to read this one. And I don't know, it was just okay. I did rent the movie to watch this weekend because I just finished it and I've never seen the movie, so I thought I would see if I like that better. But yeah, it was just okay. Probably I wouldn't rate this more than a 2-star for me, just because I did not connect with it and I didn't find her journey very fascinating or anything. Yeah, I had some really good reads. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes was really good, as well as Remarkably Bright Creatures. The rest were kind of like a 3 or 2-star. But yeah, I feel like that was a really short review this time. I don't have much to say on them. The ones that I do have a lot to say, I don't want to like spoil anything, so I'll put that in like a full spoiler video maybe later. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any book recommendations that you think I would enjoy, I'd love to hear them. And I'd love to hear what you've been reading and have been enjoying lately. And yeah, I'll see you all really soon.